What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Standing Room Only podcast. I'm Goose, as always. We have Healy here. On this week's episode, we have a full packed episode. We have some MLB news. We had the All-Star game, the Home Run Derby. We saw 50-year-old Albert Pujols smacking home runs in the Home Run Derby. There were some All-Star snubs that we want to talk about, some Juan Soto news. In the NBA, we have some more signings. James Harden resigns, takes a pay cut. Deandre Ayton potentially could have signed somewhere, ends up getting re-signing with Phoenix. In the NFL, Kyler Murray extends, making him one of the richest quarterbacks in the league right now. Kyle Rudolph, Leonard Fournette, and others. Make sure you guys are following us on social media. We are SR Only Pod. We are on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok as well. And you can follow our personal accounts. I am iGoose with 4 O's, and then we have Healy as well.
I am at the Healy6 on Twitter and Instagram. So let's start off with some baseball news. We had the All-Star game this week, which means we are technically at the halfway mark. We're just a little bit over it. We are like 90 to 100 games into it. Second half is starting up today with a couple games going on. The Yankees actually had a doubleheader today.
Yep.
To make up a series from the beginning of the year. But taking a look at the standings, the Yankees have a 12.5 game lead over the Rays in the East. The Twins lead by 2 games in the Central. Houston leads by 9.5 in the West. In the NL, the Mets lead by 2.5 over Atlanta. Milwaukee leads by half a game over St. Louis. And the Dodgers lead by 10 games. The only team I thought would be at the top of their division at this point in the year might have been the White Sox.
Yep.
They're 3 games back. They're playing 500 ball. They're 46-46 on the season. They need to make a trade or so in the next couple weeks if possible, and they need to get it together. They're playing in one of the worst divisions in baseball, and they need to capitalize. 3 games, obviously not a lot. How many games are left? But who knows? They go on a bad stretch, second half, especially when teams start heating up. They could lose the division and lose a playoff spot.
It's very possible, and yes, it has been I don't want to say it's been a frustrating season. We lost Lance Lynn for quite a while. He finally came back. He's still getting his mojo back. We thought the wild card with the Sox after losing Rodon going to San Francisco, who's obviously pitching pretty well, I would say. Who's going to step up? Who's it going to be? Lucas Giolito he's having some okay games. He's having some high ERA games. Lance Lynn's still getting it going. You have Kopech, who's had, I would say, better outings more so than not. Dylan Cease is easily a Cy Young candidate. There's no way he's not with his strikeout to 9 per 9, his ERA and everything else he's doing. I mean, he's executing. But then that's really it. Johnny Cueto's kind of doing his thing. We're seeing Johnny Cueto of like 6 or 7 years ago, which is pretty cool. And it looks like he has a good relationship with the clubhouse. So they've slowly started getting it going again. Eloy was hurt. Moncada was hurt. A lot of guys were hurt, and we are seeing other guys step up. We're seeing Andrew Vaughn have a great season. Tim Anderson's doing what Tim Anderson does. Jose Abreu started off really slow, is up to 300, I believe, plus batting average at least. And the other guys are starting to get it going. Once they start to get back to full health, we're seeing them on the last 10. They're 7-3. They're starting to click over the last month of baseball. I don't know what the record is, but they've been winning more times than not to get to where they're at. But as you said, as soon as they go on a skid, you got to watch out, because in that division, I know it's one of the easier divisions, clearly one of the easier divisions. Minnesota has proven that being able to put up runs in bunches with how dangerous their team is and their pickups that we saw late in the offseason, they can take that division, and well-deserved so. But I still think the Sox are going to pull away. I think it's going to be a close race. I don't see them winning by more than 6 games by the end of the season. But as of right now, I'm still pulling for the White Sox.
The hitting is going to be the biggest factor for them in the second half of the season.
Hmm.
They currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, and potentially 5. Jake Berger, he's only played 51 games, but they have 4 guys in Jake Berger who are above average hitting this season. That's
Which is
not great.
Yeah, but the way I look at it, if they can get that hitting going, because the pitching is on, but there's those games where you flip a coin when Giolito's out there. If Lance Lynn can get it going, and Giolito, we know we're gonna get from Giolito. I mean, does he have bad games? Yes, but I would consider him a solid 3 or 4 in that rotation. And a lot of the teams that we look at, the Yankees, the Astros, if the bats get going, they don't have, well, the Yankees have pretty good pitching. The Astros have pretty good pitching as well. They have a lot of high strikeout pitchers, but the Sox can compete with the best of them. We'll see what ends up happening. The power isn't necessarily all there quite yet. Once Eloy comes back, that's going to help the offense even more. So we'll see. We'll see about that.
Yeah, it's just they have guys below the average by so much. Reese McGuire, 58 OPS plus. OPS plus 100 is average. So
Mhm.
58 for him. Josh Harrison a bit below, but Moncada and AJ Pollock are at 70. So they're 30% worse than the average. Adam Engel's carrying his weight. How long will that last? He has a 94 OPS plus. Yasmani Grandal really needs to start stepping up. He has a 54. And then Lurie Garcia, who plays every other day, has a 41. Like, it's
Horrible.
crazy. And when Eloy has been playing, he has a 53. He's just had a lingering issue. But yeah, they just have to get a little bit going in the offense. We know the guys that are already, but like the other guys just have to not suck as much as they already are. They can suck, but they can't suck as much as they already have been.
As consistent.
Yeah.
So yeah, where there's good bats, that's the thing in the playoffs and with some of these other teams. I personally, the Yankees are my takeaway in the first half so far is the Yankees are the best team simply because at any given moment they can score so many runs. Rizzo has yet to start to, I would say, go downhill even with his age. And baseball is a little bit different than most sports. Obviously, you can be 32 to 38 and still play just as good as when you were late 20s. Maybe not so much with speed, but you have Stanton who's killing the ball, Judge who's killing the ball. They have LeMahieu. They have all these guys plus the pitching. And I think that my pick out of the first half, if I had to pick one to win the World Series, I know where this isn't predictions, it would be hard to bet against the Yankees.
Based off seeing how the Astros own them, I would pick the Astros, but the Yankees have all the necessary pieces. There's the trade deadline coming up within the next couple weeks. We are going to see people on the move. Who knows who the Yankees are going to pick up? They're only going to get better. They just have to get the right draw and hope that they can beat the powerhouse that the Houston's been in the past 5 seasons or so. They've made the ALCS 5 years in a row.
Team is
But
incredible. That's what we call a dynasty. Minus the years they cheated. That doesn't count. But they're proving that they are legit and have been legit for a while. Astros, Yankees. It's more likely going to be the ALCS matchup for all we know. I know the Astros, I believe, took game 1 of the doubleheader today. They're leading in game 2 of the doubleheader today, so they're right there with the Yankees as far as best record goes. And obviously, we know that their pitching generally is lights out. On top of the bats, I mean, the bats they have a bunch of big names. I know who is it that came up that we saw last year, the year before? Kyle Tucker,
yeah.
incredible. Alvarez, like all these guys, and Altuve. I mean, that'll be a fun ALCS, and then it'll be more interesting to see who comes out of the NL. Because if it does end up being the Mets, say like Mets versus Yankees, that'd be a pretty badass World Series if you ask me. But we'll see what the Mets do. I like what they're doing so far, but we'll see if that holds against that tough Atlanta in the NL East.
Mm-hmm. This week we did have the All-Star game, and the biggest snub, I believe everyone that got into the game, especially through replacements, were well deserved. But there is one guy who deserved to be there and potentially start the All-Star game, and his
Dylan
name was Dylan
Cease.
Cease on the White Sox.
Yes. It was I was surprised. And I know I don't know how many White Sox games you watch, but I was watching the Sox games and they're comparing them to Cortez with the Yankees, I believe Blackburn with the A's, and they were comparing statistics and how Dylan Cease ERA is better, more strikeouts in total, more strikeouts per 9 innings. The whip, I mean, everything is way better, and these are the top vote getters. Obviously, we know with all-star games, a lot of it is popularity. And not to take anything away from those other guys. Those other guys are, I mean, they're good pitchers. I saw
I
Cortez
don't even know
pitch.
if pitching is voted on.
Really? Oh, see, I didn't know that.
I think pitching is position players and DH.
Wow. And everybody just overlooked Dylan Cease.
Yes, and even after injuries and guys getting replaced.
That's interesting.
Like, I don't remember ever putting an all-star ballot in for pitcher.
Yeah, I don't think I have either. Now that I'm thinking about it, I didn't do one this year, but yeah, no, I think you make a good point there. Long story short, he didn't even make it as a replacement, which is horrible considering the year he's having.
And how many pitchers get replaced every single year? Because
Yeah,
they either don't want to pitch, they're hurt, or they have pitched like a couple days prior.
yeah. Or a lot of guys, they end up going and just not even. I'm surprised he wasn't even just as a replacement and just didn't like. Maybe they just didn't want to throw him for an inning, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, what was cool about the All-Star game, and we'll get back to the snubs. I just want to point out the interaction with the headset that the players were wearing. That was pretty cool. I thought that was pretty unique. And listening to was it Jose Trevino with the
Trevino
Yankees?
and Nestor
Trevino,
Cortez. Yeah.
yeah, that was pretty cool. And Trevino talking at first base and that. So they need to keep doing that. I don't
The
know if
Alec
that's something that they've
Manoah
always.
one was great.
I tuned in and like a little bit later after him, so I missed his.
But Alec Manoah was great. We had the home run derby. Actually, before all that, the MLB draft was on Sunday. First time it's ever during All-Star weekend.
Ooh,
It was great. I don't know much of like the draftees, but this is the first time ever that the first and second pick have had fathers play in the majors. Jackson Holliday, son of
oh
Matt
yeah,
Holliday, got
oh
selected
yeah.
number 1, which he wasn't even projected number 1. He got snuck in like last second. He got taken number 1. I guess there was multiple people in a row, but then Andrew Jones' son, Drew Jones, gets selected number 2. He was the number 1 projection for a while because of how good he is. Outfielder, plays just like his dad. The most surprising pick of them all, though, Kumar Rocker goes number 3 to the Texas Rangers. We saw last year he was dominant. Previous couple of years at Vanderbilt, he was dominant. Pitching with Jack Leiter there. He is now in the Texas organization with Jack Leiter again. And it was a surprise because last year Kumar got drafted. This wasn't the first time he got drafted. He got drafted last year in the first round by the Mets. He had arm issues or like some health issues. The Mets were like, we aren't going to offer you a contract if you don't get a physical. He's like, all right, I'm not going to sign a contract unless like I can just skip the physical. So then they waited until the day. They didn't sign him. The Mets got an extra pick this year. I can't remember if Kumar did get arm surgery though shortly after, but because he didn't get signed, he couldn't sign as a free agent. He had to just play independent ball. He could have went back to college, but he's like, no, I'm just going to play independent. So he played independent and he goes number 3, which is crazy. Obviously now his arm has to be better, but Just the
That's
fact
interesting that you can get drafted twice in the MLB. I always thought the MLB
you get
draft is kind
drafted
of
3
weird.
times.
That's so it's weird and cool at the same time. I saw there were guys committed to colleges already getting drafted into the league. And I guess I don't understand how that works. Like you can fulfill your college duty to get the education and play, but then once you're out, you still are assigned to that team.
No, when you are in high school, I think Nick Birdie got drafted twice. He got drafted in the late rounds out of high school. For anyone listening, this is a guy who went to our school. He got drafted out of high school, but it was a later round, and he had a good offer to go to Louisville, and he declined. He went to Louisville, but you can't enter like back-to-back seasons.
Okay.
So you can't like get a team that you want, be like, "Oh, this is the Diamondbacks. They've been okay. I'll wait till next year and hopefully the Diamondbacks don't draft me." You have to wait like a couple seasons. So that's why then Nick Birdie got drafted as like a junior in college.
That makes sense.
And he
Okay.
got drafted
Okay.
a second time. There's guys who get drafted 3 times because I think they go to college or they get drafted out of high school. Then they do like the 3 years. I think they decline that. And then they have like a senior season. And I think you can enter after that. But I think the high school one, you can't just go and then play freshman year and then get drafted again. So that anyone who gets drafted out of high school, round 1 through like 5, I think any of them would get drafted out of high school. They're committed somewhere. It's just, is the money going to be there for the team to offer them? Like, are they going to meet their needs? Or like, would they rather develop in college and take that risk and get drafted again in a bit? It rarely happens for first round guys because they get so much money. It's mainly for the guys after a few rounds because that's where the money really dips off. But for like a guy who goes to college, it could be like he wants like $7 million and this team's only going to offer him 2. He could decline it and be like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go to college. Or he could be like a starting pitcher in which their stuff might not be as developed. They might not be as confident into going into the league. The team could be like, yeah, we'll give you $6 million though. He only wanted 2, but they could offer him $6 million to just keep him from going to college.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And then you get the control for however many years too on top of that.
Yeah, it's just, you want to go into pro ball then, and then if you aren't ready, you can mess up. Or do you want to try to take that risk? Hopefully you don't blow your arm out and get way better so your road to the show is easier.
Pros and cons to both. We used to see it
So,
when I mean, college basketball players before the 1 year requirement. That was a thing. LeBron was able to go directly to the league, and a lot of other guys were able to go directly to the league.
well,
Kobe skipped.
the NBA recently has done it where you could enter the draft, and if you don't get drafted or like sign with teams, I think afterwards, you could re-enter the draft in the future.
That makes sense. You know what's pretty cool is a lot of guys getting drafted from the G League, which is obviously like a developmental league. You aren't. It's like minors in a way, but not really.
Yeah, instead of going to
And
college, you're just getting that money right away.
yeah, and a lot of guys you'll see right out of high school, they'll go play pro ball for a year overseas, collect a check there, a good check too, because overseas basketball, those guys get paid pretty well. They'll go get paid like we saw with, I think LaMelo did that. Instead
Yeah.
of playing college,
Well, he
go,
couldn't play college because he got paid already from Big Baller Brand. He was ruled ineligible.
oh, oof. But it works out.
Yeah.
It works out. Which, well, that's another conversation with
Yeah. Imagine
LaMelo. He's got a
LaMelo at
number 2.
UCLA. Like, he would have been, I don't know who would have been popular more in college, him or Zion.
That would have been very interesting to see, especially because that would change his draft stock and potentially team that he gets drafted to. I can't see him outside of a Hornets uniform like
Yeah.
forever. I don't
I
know
couldn't
why.
either.
I just have that stuck.
And I feel like if he went to UCLA, they would have let him play how he did compared to like going to like a Duke school or
A
UNC where
traditional,
it's
yeah.
a system based, not a
Yep.
star based. So it definitely helped him not going. But yeah, there's guys who play overseas and get the money first and play against better professional athletes.
So
It
pros and
helps them out.
cons with baseball. You go to college, you risk injury, you might develop, you might not, or you go to the pros, you may not get the check. A lot of guys, you see the grind of the show. I mean, it takes them years sometimes, but if I'm 18, I want to start developing right away. I want to show them what I got right away. That would be my personal opinion and based on work ethic. Like, what's the fastest way to get there? Start now. But baseball's different. You're gone all the time. There's a whole lot behind it. So
And also to think if you're getting offered all that money, you could use that money then to get pay for your school.
that's also true. That is also true. And you
It,
can invest and do other
yeah.
things with it. So
Yeah. MLB draft was this past weekend. The Cubs drafted like 17 different pitchers out of their 20 picks or so. Crazy. They went even like round one pitcher, a guy who could be up like as early as next season because he came out of college. But they're going the route that their farm system doesn't have enough arms, and they're just throwing stuff at a wall and hoping it sticks with one of these guys. The White Sox, I'm not really sure who they went after. I know they drafted a guy first round out of Riverside Brookfield High School. He's like 6'9" pitcher. So
I saw that. I saw that.
he could be decent and then. But yeah, that was the MLB draft. The next day, home run derby,
It's
which
interesting. It was
definitely
good.
did not. It's not as great as it's been in previous years, especially 2019. You had the Vlad versus Jock showdown. Vladimir Guerrero went off. Then you had 2020 COVID, didn't happen. Last year, it was just in Colorado, so it made it that much better seeing guys just crush baseballs. This year, though, it was good, but it wasn't great in my mind. You had Albert Pujols, who turned back the clock a little bit, hit some bombs. The only unfortunate thing with him, though, he didn't hit too many home runs, and he was the lowest seed. So all the guys after him had to do was hit more than he did. It wasn't like Julio Rodriguez where he was the lower seed. He was able to hit 30 home runs without any like stoppage. He could do whatever he wanted. But like Albert, he went up against Kyle Schwarber, who ended up tying him somehow with 13. How does Kyle not advance? And then in extra time, Kyle still lost. But like even the next round, he went up against Soto. And Juan Soto only had to beat so many home runs. He didn't have to hit that many. We couldn't see Juan Soto go off. But
Yeah.
it was definitely cool seeing some of the other guys like Julio Rodriguez become like a superstar in that moment.
Oh, absolutely. Because he was even in the All-Star game as well the next day. Julio Rodriguez put his name on the map with his performance. He hit the most home runs in the Derby. Obviously, you can bat second in every round and win with bare minimum. Uh, I'm looking forward to watching more Julio Rodriguez baseball. Dude has an energy to him where he's just a happy dude, and you like to see people like that thrive. I think he's only 21 years old as well. I think
Yep.
this is his rookie
Only
season.
21.
He's got like 16 home runs on the season, which rookie season, pretty damn good if you ask me, on a team that is red hot at the moment with the Seattle Mariners. I thought the home run derby was cool. One of the things I miss is who used to announce it? Was it Chris Berman?
Chris Berman, he was there for a little
I
bit.
saw him there. I saw him there.
But obviously he's older now and doesn't have
It's
the
it's not the
entertainment.
same. Yeah, it's not the same. And you got to remember, home run derby back in the day, I think was a 10-out rule. I don't even think they
10
had
outs.
this.
So when there was a home run, it was huge.
It was huge. It was critical because you have 10 outs. And we know Schwarber, there was an issue where maybe somebody had miscounted and he actually did pass up Pujols or tied him or whatever it was. But even then, Schwarber I would have expected to actually smash easily 25. It just wasn't in him. Ultimately, It was an okay home run derby. I do like that there's a prize for them because it gives them a reason to go out and call timeout in strategic moments. And you have Pete Alonso warming up and meditating in between rounds, which I thought was super cool. So there were some cool like perks to it. I love that the players gathered around Pujols. My girlfriend was watching it. I went to walk the dogs. I was like, I don't want to watch Pujols hitting this round. It's just not. And it was cool. She's like, oh my gosh, all the players came out. They huddled them. It was such a wholesome moment. And I had to rewind back. I was like, man, this is it. This is love. All these dudes grew up watching prime Pujols, and it took me back. It took me back. I was like, man, I remember he was the machine in every Sports Center commercial. He dominated the Cubs. He dominated everybody in the NL. I mean, that was a super cool moment. And then, of course, with the SB, we saw him as well. So ultimately, I would give it out of 10. I would have to give it a 7. It was good enough. It was worth the watch. I would put it that way.
Yeah, no doubt. A little self-promotion. I did upload a YouTube video where I hit a home run with Albert Pujols every single year he's been in the league.
Nice.
So check it out on my YouTube channel, Healy6. I played 21 baseball games, and I had to hit a home run with him in every single one. It took me hours to record. So go.
Is that 21 years of MLB The Show?
No. I had to play MVP baseball. I had to play All-Star baseball. And then
man.
And then MLB The Show started. MLB The Show, like, it started off in like 04, but it was like MLB 2004, MLB 2005. Then it went MLB 06, The Show. I did all the show games, and then before that I did 3 MVP games, and then I did All-Star Baseball, which was like
I remember All-Star Baseball. I'm pretty sure I had All-Star Baseball on like the N64. I could be wrong.
Probably. It was also this is how stupid it was named too, because of NBA and NFL having like Madden 2005 and it comes out in 2004. I had to play All-Star Baseball 2003, which came out in February or March of 2002 and was for the 2002 season.
So they kept up with the trend of the year. But that's not how baseball works. Baseball is played in the same year. Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting.
I did that. Very cool video. Also, the home run derby. These guys need to get better pitchers. Some of these guys once the lights turn on, they're nowhere to be found. Ronald Acuna's guy, someone sign him.
Horrible.
He was giving them really good pitches. Kyle Schwarber's guy was like another one who was doing it like okay. We all know Pete Alonso's former pitching coach or whatever just throws perfect pitches in there every time. But I guess it's a wholesome moment. Some guys want their dads or whatever out there, but you got to give better pitches. And then Julio Rodriguez didn't win it, but he's only earning $700,000 this season. And he got $750,000 for runner-up.
Yeah, he doubled his salary with the runner-up, which is awesome. He deserves it. You gotta give in this type of situation, whoever hits the most home runs in a round or in total should get some kickback. It's not his fault he had to go first.
Mm-hmm.
And that round was crazy because it was like 33 or 32 to 26 against was that against Treya? Who was or Seager? He won against somebody in the first round. It was 33 to 26. And those guys hit the most in the top 2 in the first round.
I think it was Seager.
That was Seager. That was definitely Seager, Texas Rangers. And I was like, wow, this guy's going to get eliminated. And then we see Pujols advance with like 16. I was like, oh gosh. All right. Could be a better system. It should ultimately be top 4 go to the next round, and then top 2.
We ended up seeing Juan Soto win it all. And then the next day we had the All-Star game in which we saw the American League take another victory. I don't know how many years in a row, but the National League hasn't won in like a decade, I believe. I'm not even like exaggerating. It has been a long time since the National League's won it, which you might see a shift now that the DH is in the National League, or you're going to get some of these power hitters, but it wasn't even like the American League outslugged them. There was a couple runs in the first inning for the NL, and then you had another inning of the All-Star game where there was 2 home runs with Byron Buxton and Stanton, and that was the game off of a Cy Young candidate, Tony Gonsolin, who has like the ERA. He might be the ERA leader in the National League. Could be wrong on that.
Pitching in his hometown, or at least
Oh,
for
he
his
doesn't have the
team.
ERA, but he is 11-0, and he has a 2.02 ERA pitching at his home stadium. I get he came out of the bullpen, but of course, like the American League squeaks it out once again.
I'm not surprised that it's the American League. I feel like it's just their game. It ended up being an okay game. Like you said, the runs were early. Was that back-to-back home runs that they hit in that inning as well? With Stanton
Yeah.
and
Yep.
Buxton? I'm pretty sure it was. So
Well,
that was
I think Buxton hit a home run and then Stanton hit a 2-run shot.
okay. Okay, that makes sense. Stanton
be
hit the
wrong, though.
2-run and then Buxton followed up. So it was
Okay, so it was
back-to-back.
back-to-back. Okay.
Either way, AL wins again. We saw a bunch of pitchers go in, which was cool. We saw who was in there throwing? Somebody was throwing heat.
Manuel Clase.
Yeah, there's somebody as well. Jorge Lopez has some heat. And then there's a guy on the Tigers, Gregory Soto, that was bringing some heat as well. Seeing some of these dudes toss 100. Somebody hit 103 in the game, and I don't remember, it was one of those two. And that was dope. So we're seeing guys perform. I mean, you can't really, you can kind of underperform. No, not really with pitching. You either a hitting or you're not. And then we saw a bunch of, like, that's my one thing about the All-Star game. You get to see everybody play. Some guys only play 1 inning. Sometimes they play 2, whether if they're position players or pitchers. So that's what I love about it. It was in LA. It was pretty much 5 p.m. game in LA. So it was daytime almost the whole game, which is pretty cool. And we got to see the advertisement for this year's Field of Dreams game. The incredible. This might be the matchup of the century. We're talking actually, the Reds I wouldn't say are that bad, but we're going to see the Reds. We're going to see the Cubs. They're going to play off in Iowa, in heaven. No, this is Iowa. If you guys get the reference, catch my drift.
After last year's game, I don't even want to like go to this year's. Even with the Cubs, I would go see the Cubs play, but it's just the competition is so bad. You're going to see Luis Castillo get traded before the end of the month. Wilson Contreras is going to get traded before the end of the month. How many other guys are going to get traded from the Reds and the Cubs? Like it's the battle for 5th place. Both these teams are on pace to win like 50-something games.
Yeah, when it was last year and it was ALCS, like that was like the prediction, and we see it was like a movie. And I'm not gonna lie, I regret turning it off in the 8th inning. It was one of the worst sports related thing I've ever done in my life, and I highly regret. Especially when my phone's blowing up. I think Healy might have texted me too. What an ending! Go on Twitter, of course, and you see Tim Anderson drive it opposite field into the cornfields, walk-off home run. I just don't see that type of excitement out of this game. You know, I am going to tune in, though, only because it's nostalgic. They're going to be wearing their old 1900s uniforms, which is going to be sick. But like you said, those guys are going to be traded. Is it going to be fun? Probably not. But still, nostalgia.
I completely forgot about that game until you brought it up. So we're going to move on from that. We're going to talk about the home run derby winner, Juan Soto. Well, actually, before we even get to that, we could talk about how shitty some teams were. The Athletics had Paul Blackburn go to the All-Star game, and they were going to fly him commercial to the All-Star game. Houston caught wind of it and he flew on Houston's private jet to the All-Star game, which was cool. It was a nice gesture from Houston, I believe. I think they played probably that same day. But yeah, the A's were so
Wow.
cheap that they were just going to fly him commercial. He was going to ride with everyone else.
He's not the only player, though, I heard.
Yeah, Juan Soto
Juan Soto, right?
is
After on the
another
way
guy.
home?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
His
Juan
agent
Soto
was
to
pissed.
the All-Star game.
Okay, it was 2. Yeah, his agent
Yeah.
apparently was him and his agent were just furious. I would be pissed too.
Yeah,
Especially Soto is high profile.
they offered him a $440 million contract. He declined it, and they said, "All right, go fly commercial."
That's
As
horrible.
if they didn't just offer him a lot of money to stay with the team. So he also had to fly commercial. I know people are gonna be like, "Oh, these guys are professional athletes. Oh, like they can't fly in their fancy jets." It's not about the quality of it. It's the way it's gone about with every other team doing it. And then these owners are like, "No, get there how you get there."
That's basically, yeah, it could be CTA, Chicago Public Transit, it doesn't matter. And that's the
And
whole
these are your
idea. It's not
all-stars.
you want them to show up in style. This is everybody's doing it for their guys. Why not? But I mean, as a way to say, you know what? You're gonna decline $500 million. Here you go, smack in the face. But for Blackburn to do it too, with an organization that's been struggling quite a bit, and I think they're staying in Oakland moving forward. I think that was
They have
some.
a plan to build a stadium, but it's not official that they like actually will.
Okay, so they're still, it's up in the air right now.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. I mean, they just don't fill the seats there. It's a thing. Somehow these teams make a lot of money that don't fill the seats, but it's okay. But as you had mentioned, I just mentioned, Juan Soto declined his massive extension. 15 years, 440 million would have made him a Washington National for life, assuming he doesn't get traded or whatever. And it becomes why would anybody decline that type of deal? There's many things to think about. Baseball money is real. A lot of guys that perform, they're going to get a deal like this. We see it all the time. We see it with the Harpers, the Machados, the Kershaw, all these guys that get paid big bucks because they are consistent. They're consistently good or consistently good enough. They make an impact in the game. We saw the Nationals win it a few years ago. They are a team that I don't know if maybe he just doesn't like the franchise. He doesn't see the future with them, whatever it may be, but he will end up getting a paycheck just as big, maybe not as long. Maybe he'll only do a 10-year deal somewhere. But he's
Yeah.
going to get it. He's going to get
Getting
it.
$440 million over 15 years, a lot of money. Yes. But when you break it down to $30 million a year for a guy who is only going to be 24 when he hits free agency, not 27, 28 like Bryce Harper and all them and Manny Machado, who will bring them to 40, 15 years will bring Juan Soto to 39. But like, you are going to get a lot of great years out of Juan Soto. He is not past his prime. He's only getting to it or continuing it. He's going to be 24, which is unheard of someone hitting free agency. He is worth like that money. He's not even worth 440 for 10 years. He's worth more than that. And there's going to be a team out there that offers him that. Also, the Nationals are not the best organization. They sold out their hearts for the World Series championship in 2019. They unfortunately overpaid Steven Strasburg and Patrick Corbin. Max Scherzer's no longer there. They gutted their system, and their farm system isn't too great. So Juan Soto, if he does sign, he's going to be 24. Who knows when the Nationals are going to be good again, 30 or something like that. If you sign a big contract, you want at least like a guarantee that you're going to at least somewhat compete within a couple years. You don't want any uncertainties of costing yourself another championship or deep playoff runs with your team.
Absolutely. I mean, and who knows the actual details. Was it going to be loaded up on the back end and he's going to be forced to perform at a lower salary and then it's going to jump up to 40, 45 mil towards the last few years and they decide to trade him at that point. Who knows what, like, the actual deals, who knows why he did it. I'm assuming there was a lot of talks with him, his agent, and they said, look, this is not the best deal. You're going to go out and dominate. You're going to be one of the league leaders in base on balls. You have a great eye. You have power. You have pop in your bat. You are 24 years old. I mean, he's young. This is young, right? For baseball.
He's only like 22, 23 right now.
So he's turning 24 next year, right? So, or even then, even if he's 22, we're talking.
Oh, he's 23. He's going to turn 24 at the end of this season.
Okay.
So he'll hit his contract. He'll be a free agent by the time he's 25.
So after next season.
Yep.
Apparently, and I don't know if it's just rumors. Right now it is. Apparently, they're going to start to shop him. They're going to be listening to offers, and they're going to get a lot for him. And to be fair, this might end up paying out well if they do end up trading him.
Actually, he doesn't hit free agency until 2025.
So would this be 15 years on top of that? It would have to be, right? It's an extension.
No, it would just be
restructured.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like he has arbitration, but he doesn't have a contract for next year.
Gotcha.
It would have to go to arbitration. Signing this contract, like Eloy Jimenez, they don't have to deal with arbitration for him because he already has a deal for that service time. So he actually has 2.5 seasons left, which is massive. He could potentially be traded, but it's going to cost pretty much your whole farm system right now.
And is it worth it at that point? I think I'm a firm believer that, well, I guess we'll wait and see what ends up happening, but it all depends on how the franchise is ran. I mean, you can't really jump to trade somebody like that either, because what if they, for some reason, do end up competing in the next couple of years and they prove to it, and now they're like, hey, we'll give you 10 years for the same amount of money. Mm-hmm. It's going to end up working out either way. Hopefully they can end up finding a trade suitor for him. So
whoever does trade for him, if he does get traded, will most likely sign him to a long-term deal. Kind of like how Mookie Betts got traded and signed immediately. But whoever, like in baseball, you got to trade for what you know is good and give up the uncertainties in your prospects.
Yep.
Like you could have a top prospect. Matt Moore was a top prospect at a time over Bryce Harper and Mike Trout. He was a number one guy. You just got to give him up and hope for the best.
Wow. Matt Moore. That's it actually for baseball news. That's it for baseball. We have not talked baseball in a while. So all you baseball fans, I hope you guys got what you've been waiting for. Mm-hmm. We're going to transition. We can either go one way or we can go the other way because we still have 2 other sports. Not a whole lot, but we have some talks. Let's go NBA.
Okay.
So we have a couple of news. We had the Summer League. We had Dame Lillard getting a phone call, not knowing that his team just won the Summer League.
Well, I forgot Dame Lillard signed. Did we talk about him signing that huge extension?
I don't think we did.
No.
Now that I'm thinking about it, because we haven't talked in about 2 weeks, and I think he signed that extension within the last 2 weeks. Dame Lillard is staying with Portland.
For even longer. It's not that he's staying there. He's staying there for even longer.
And you gotta respect the grind. Essentially, his extension is going to bring him to 2026, 2027 season. He is about to be 32. He just finished his 10th season. His extension is going to get him into about 36. He is eventually, in that last year, going to make 63 points. $3 million player option. The year before would be $58.5 million. One of the craziest deals I've ever seen. Personally, a guy at that age, if you got him about 3 or 4 years ago and gave him that same extension, I would say, okay, we can justify that. I can't justify this deal. Shout out to him for staying. You cannot pass that up. We're talking, you are making almost, it's less than 10%, but you are almost making I would consider a high percentage of $1 billion. Like 63 million was at 6.3%. So it's like, why not just do it and stay? He loves Portland. He loves the fans. The fans love him, apparently. They have some pieces around him. I just don't see them winning. And when you add that type of salary, you're taking away from the potential of the future. I think it's just crazy. And he got away with robbery. I don't think he's worth give him 40 million. He's declined. He's 32. Is he going to get better? That you're going to pay him the most in the league? That you're going to pay him 30-something% of your salary cap? That wouldn't fly in my 2K league. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I don't know about that. And it was funny after he got signed, I saw a couple tweets of like, oh, I thought everyone said Dame hated Portland. Oh, I thought people said Dame wanted out. I'm still behind. Damian Lillard does not have the balls to say he wants out. Also, this is a lot of money to pass up. As you mentioned, this is going to set his family up probably for the rest of their generations if they spend it well. They don't go crazy on it. But like, he's never been the guy who said he's unhappy with the team. He just saw CJ McCollum get traded. Obviously, it didn't work with him, but like, I don't think he's the type of guy to be like, yeah, trade me, like, get me out of here. He's going to wait for the organization to give up and finally be like, all right, dude, we tried. We just got to go in a different direction. You're on the other side of father time. And then they kick him out.
They ruined it by giving him the contract. Nobody's going to eat that contract. You're telling me you're going to
sign like Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, like who's going to trade for, and don't get me wrong, I've been so back and forth with this whole Russell Westbrook slander, and I've been on board with the whole Russell Westbrook. But like honestly, is the risk worth the reward? And it's not. I mean, do I hope Westbrook turns it around and shows people who he really is this year and the Lakers get together? Yes. But like the same thing. 45 million or 40 million, whatever his contract is, teams aren't going to give that up. You're not going to give up draft picks and a top player for Westbrook. You're not going to do a Kyrie for Westbrook swap. You don't do something like that because why would you spend money on uncertainty? Same thing with Dame. If you would have given him, like I said, in the middle years, give him the most money, and towards the end of his contract, give him a lower amount, something that's going to be team friendly so that they can offload him if they realize it's not going to work, and trade him to a contender even. That some teams do that. They're like, look, you're not going to win with us. Let's help you out. Let's get you to the Lakers. LeBron's 52. He's still playing. And you can win a championship there or whatever it may be, right? So I just think it was just a poorly written contract offer by the team and well executed by Dame and his agent. Whoever his agent is, shout out. You just got a fat paycheck.
Mm-hmm. Completely forgot about that deal. And now I'm mad that I like remembered it.
Horrible. In other news, though, we saw some other signings that were, I would say, pretty good.
We saw James Harden take a money cut.
Got a cut.
He's
signed a 2-year
65 million or something.
Yeah, it's like 32.5 is the average, which is good because he is about a $40 million a year player. Took a pay cut, and his whole thing was he talked to Murray and was like, "Hey, I want to win, so I'm gonna sign last. Whatever's left over, save me a good salary." Save me a decent salary, whatever's left over, I will take, and we're going to win. And, I mean, that's the type of player you want. You want a guy that, yeah, he wants his money, but he also wants to be team-friendly. I don't think him and Joel Embiid are going to end up clashing. Like I keep reading, people are like, this is the year they clash. It's not going to work. Joel's tired of losing. I think it's going to work. I think that they are going to compete and go deep. I like this Sixers team. I know that they offloaded some assets, moved some guys around over the last season, but I like what they got going on, and I think it'll be hopefully they contend. Because I mean, realistically, yes, it would be cool to see James Harden win, but I want to see Joel Embiid win because he's been consistently good almost like every year in his career.
Yeah, that he's been healthy. And then we saw DeAndre Ayton sign the max deal with the Indiana Pacers to start off.
Yes.
So it was a wild 24 hours. There was news DeAndre Ayton signed a 4-year, $130-something million deal with the Pacers. And everyone was like, oh, wow. Like the Pacers, they have Miles Turner. DeAndre Ayton's going there. The Kevin Durant trade is now out the window for the Suns.
Yep.
And people didn't really think that the Suns were like going to match. But the Suns saw the window they have. Chris Paul is only getting older. They have Devin Booker, who just signed a max. Why not run it back with DeAndre Ayton? And it was kind of smart for the Suns in a way.
It works. It works. It's a 4-year deal. Let's see where I mean, they're right there. They're right there. I don't think that they are a champion. When healthy, I don't think that they are a championship contending team in the West. There are teams that can beat them. Clippers healthy can beat them. Lakers, I'm not going to say because the Lakers had a really bad season. Denver healthy could potentially beat them. Golden State, who just won the championship, proved that they can beat them. The Pelicans, it might be a dangerous team this year. And I'm missing another team for sure, but there's a lot of good teams out of that West. A lot of players coming back
You say
healthy.
Clippers?
Yeah, the Clippers. Yeah, that was the one. I think healthy, the Clippers might actually end up being the team to beat.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how that ends up going. I mean, Kawhi, Paul George. Paul George is one of those
John
guys.
Wall.
Every fourth game, John Wall being a third option. That's going to be nuts.
I think it was Phoenix's plan all along, though. All you heard was they don't want to pay him the money. They don't want to re-sign him. And they were going to just use him as a trade piece and a sign-in trade to get Kevin Durant. Someone signed him, and they almost immediately re-signed him to that deal. And I think that was their plan all along, because if they went out and re-signed him individually, they would have signed him for more money and also an extra year. They didn't want that 5th year. So the fact that he signed with another team and now he only has 4 years, centers are weird. They're kind of like pitchers in baseball where they're kind of hit or miss at this point.
Yeah.
Like Dwight Howard was a beast for a while and all of a sudden he like kind of fell off. Andrew Bynum, monster. Where is he now? I don't even know. He was out of the league within 3 seasons after people discovered him. Like, you could become really bad really easily as a center just because of your size and skill set. Like, you got to remain athletic. You get hurt very easily, and you got to not get that weight on you. Otherwise, you will be very slow and unproductive.
Yeah. I mean, you hit the nail on the head right there. I think that was going to be my question too, was did they avoid signing him to the Supermax, the 5-year deal? And it looks like they did. The Pacers getting him would have been sick, because then we could have seen a crazy trade. It would have been like Miles Turner. We would have seen Buddy Hield go probably to the Lakers. Miles Turner somewhere, but that wasn't the case. It ended up not being the case. And so DeAndre Ayton stays there. They still have Cam Johnson. They still have Booker and Michael Bridges and all these guys, which I don't think they should really trade these guys for a Kevin Durant. But it does not mean that we're out of the woods yet. Kevin Durant is still rumored to potentially be on the block. Kyrie, we're still hearing it. I think the Nets should just run it back. Personally, get Ben Simmons in the court. Do what the Lakers just did. They were like, you know what? Fuck it. We're gonna get together and we're gonna make this work. and here's how. We're gonna discuss. We're gonna express our difficulty personally with the team, whatever it may be, and we are gonna make this work. And that's apparently what they did. I think the Nets should do it too because I do think Ben Simmons is better than what the media is clowning him to be. I mean, yeah, did he pass up open shots in the playoffs? Yes. Was he the cause for potentially some big losses? Yeah, probably. But more times than not, he is still a defensive stud. He still is able to get to the rack. Maybe he's not a shooter. You don't need him to shoot. There are guys that don't shoot the ball. That is a thing, and that is okay. You still have other players around. You still have Seth Curry, I believe. You still have, well, you lost Andre Drummond, you lost some other guys like that, but you still have Kevin Durant, and it's I think they would still be a top 4 team in the East if they just give it a shot. Like the
Yeah,
Suns are giving it a shot.
as I've said before, every day that passes, the chances of them running it back just gets higher and higher. Who knows? Maybe the Bulls will sneak in at some point. A guy who hasn't been talked about enough, who's a free agent this offseason, is Colin Sexton. I get
Yep.
that he was hurt last season, but there's no deals. You don't hear anyone talking about him. And I think it's because the Cavs are going to re-sign him eventually. What I basically researched is they extended a qualifying offer to him, which then made him a restricted free agent. So it's either he takes the qualifying offer, which isn't a lot of money, and he plays a 1-year deal working for a contract and potentially being unrestricted next season, or a team will take the risk, but because of his injury, they aren't going to pay him the max money that they may have in previous years if he wasn't hurt, and then the Cavs just sign him to that deal.
I want to see him run it back with the Cavs because I think this Cavs team last year proved that they can be dangerous, and he just adds that flexibility. He's a very quick guard. He's athletic. We've seen him have very high scoring games. You have Darius Garland, the point at this. I mean, at this point, he's a point guard. They re-signed Ricky Rubio, and they just have a complete squad. If he doesn't, what team would you like to see him play for if you've thought about it? I can't really pinpoint a team
The
that would,
Mavericks.
besides, I was going to say Dallas might be the only team where it would work because they lost Jalen Brunson. You would be replacing him. You would have
The
your guards
Wizards.
of. The Wizards are a weird team, though. Do you think that they would? Well, they need it,
They have
right?
Johnny Davis, who they just drafted as like their point guard.
Actually, you know what? That's not a bad idea. Because the Wizards showed signs last year. I know people are like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. The Wizards had some damn good games. You had Kuzma stepping up. You had, well, Montrezl Harrell is gone. You had Thomas Bryant's now gone. Denny kind of started to pick it up towards the end of the season. He's not panning out to what we thought. They ended up getting. Did they sign Caldwell Pope or is he gone? I'm drawing a blank
He's
on some of
gone.
their
He
guys.
got traded to for
Who
Will
did they?
Barton
Oh,
and
Barton. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Will Barton is a solid scorer.
someone
You're talking
else.
about a guy who put up points behind a Jokic, behind the rest of that team. So if they do get a Sexton, could they be good? Potentially. I don't know if they'd
Pacers
probably be a.
potentially after trading Brogdon.
That is very true as well. Brogdon's now with Boston. Pacers are running. I don't even know. The Pacers are like offloading at this point. I don't know if they'd want to make a. Well,
You're only going to sign him to like a couple year deal
yeah, and it
if
won't
you
be
do.
it's not going to be huge money. I mean, he's going to get some money because of what he's already proven he can be. But coming off a big injury, we'll see. Got to see him go somewhere though. I couldn't see him not being on a team at the start of the season.
Yeah, that's why I think if he was unrestricted, you'd hear more talks, and he wouldn't be a free agent at this point. I think it's just
Very true.
leaning to him going back to the Cavs. But I think a team should, if a team was smart enough, maybe not like a team that doesn't need him, but like let's say the Mavericks, you should at least offer him a contract of some sort in case you do get him, but also don't allow the Cavs just to get him back for a qualifying offer.
I agree. I mean, I think. Well, let's see. I don't know. Is there even a time frame on his injury? Because I know he tore. Was it an ACL this year? He tore something, and I don't remember if it was ACL or MCL or meniscus. But I'm almost positive he should be back at the beginning of the season, bare minimum. And let me see, what was his torn meniscus on his left knee.
Yeah.
So at the time, there was no timetable. He ended up going out for the rest of the season. But that was we're
Colin
talking.
Sexton's, this was 3 months ago. Colin Sexton said he didn't have a specific timeline with his recovery, but said he will be ready at the start of training camp.
Which is perfect because that's literally like now, right around the corner. Some reporters are saying that he has no market in the free agency. I personally think that my personal opinion, if he doesn't re-sign with the Cavs with the qualifying offer, if he can land on the Mavericks, I think that would be sick. They have Christian Wood, they have Luka, obviously, Dorian Finney-Smith, a lot of other great pieces, and I think that he would help them run it back. But to answer your question, I guess it really depends. It really depends on his on the offer and if he decides to stay. He's restricted though, so he doesn't really have a choice. So
Exactly. And then with that though, we will finish off the podcast with NFL talk. Pretty big one. Kyler Murray gets the extension that he's wanted, and he's going to be making $46 million a season, putting him right behind Deshaun Watson. It's
crazy.
like Kyler Murray isn't the best quarterback, but as we know in the NFL, when you find a quarterback that works or that is decent, you got to just roll with them until they stink, because it is very tough to find a good quarterback in the league. And that's why you see guys stick around for so long. It's
And you
tough,
got to think
and they're the biggest part of the offense. Without them, you aren't necessarily winning.
salaries are going up. We know the NFL is eventually trying to get to that point where they're making more money than baseball. I mean, that's kind of where it's going. You you got to pay for.
Well, they make more money than the NBA by a
Yeah,
long shot. It's just they have 55 guys on a team.
there's a lot of guys on the team. Exactly. I believe that Kyler Murray is well worth the investment considering the above: his age, the tangibles, he's got the speed, he's got an arm. He's proven to lead this team to multiple winning seasons. As long as the defense continues to perform in the games that they have performed, there's been a lot of shootouts, obviously. It's just a tough division. You can't run the risk of, okay, let's wait. And now quarterbacks are actually getting paid more. And so now we have to give them more, right? Like that's kind of like the game. You pay them now, and who knows, again, I don't know the details of the contract. Is it player friendly? Is it team friendly? Is it loaded on the back end? Is it loaded on the front? And maybe it's just even all around. Who knows? I don't know if that's what they do in the NFL, but I would try to work it to where we're like, hey, you stick around with us towards the end of this your career with us or whatever it may be, that contract, you're making guap. And at this point, we hope to have already won a Super Bowl because we extended you. We're going to be building around you. And so, I mean, that's how I would try to approach that.
Yeah, and by the time we see Joe Burrow and is he blanking? Justin Herbert get new
Yes.
contracts, they're going to be making like $55 million a year.
Oh, easily.
Payment
At least
doesn't mean
50.
the best in the league. It just means you are there at the right time.
That's all it is. You're locking them up for good money, and you don't want to see these guys end up leaving. Or, I mean, how many guys are like holding out in the NFL? They hold out. They're like, I want to be paid the highest, and it's like you're already making 30. What's an extra 10? I mean, it's an extra 10's a lot, but too many guys hold out. They have control.
And good thing for Kyler Murray. He took the risk of not accepting that first round baseball offer. He decided to go back to college, play football, and now look at the money he's making. And he's only
And
25.
he gets to live in Arizona where the weather's not very bad. He's playing on a fun team. JJ Watt, Buda Baker, they got the defensive side. He gets to go up against them in practice. Is Jones
Hopkins
still there? Hopkins,
when he comes
he's
back from the
Yeah,
suspension.
I was gonna say when he's back from his suspension and he's done roiding up, whatever he's doing, and they obviously got a solid running game. So we'll see what ends up happening. I still think this is going to be the Rams division for the next couple of years, 2 to 3 years, I'd say.
And then besides that, Kyle Rudolph, is that his name?
Kyle Rudolph, yep, tight end.
Signs with the Bucks. A little underrated signing. He's not like a super vertical threat, but it's Tom Brady getting another weapon.
Which another tall, most tight ends are tall. Obviously, Gronk is retired for now.
I remembered the Bears traded for a wide receiver recently too.
Oh,
N'Keal Harry.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. I was seeing some advanced statistics showing he's not that great, but has he really had a chance? Mac
Who
Jones?
knows? Here's what I'm thinking and why the Bears made this trade though. They have a young team. They don't have the best wide receivers. Their defense is still going to be decent, but they have to manage games well. So they go out and trade for N'Keal Harry. And I can't remember his first name, but the Bears also have a wide receiver named Pringle. And due to some analytics, Pringle and N'Keal Harry were the best run blocking wide receivers in the league last year. So I think the Bears are going to go to, because Justin Fields is so young and their offense isn't great, they're going to be a game managing, run the ball type of team. Short pass, run the ball type of team.
This is the Bears DNA, 5-yard passes, and that's horrible. Cannot believe they couldn't keep A-Rob. Still can't believe that. Anyways, that's going to wrap up the episode. We will have a lot more football news predictions as the season inches closer. We are right here. We will be grooving into August, just about in our next episode.
You can tell it's football season as well due to everyone talking about Madden ratings that they don't even care about. Hilarious.
Yeah, horrible Madden rating. It's the same story every year.
Well, they do it for public purpose just to get their marketing out there. It's the easiest marketing ever.
It makes sense. There's some guys that you're like, horribly rated. It's I'm still probably gonna end up playing Madden, whatever. But yeah, rating system, and of course they always change in the regular season throughout the season as well. So same thing with 2K is usually not the best. So
yeah, make sure to follow us at SROnlyPod on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. You can follow our personal pages. Mine is at the Healy6.
And I am iGoose with 4 O's. Hit that follow button and let's talk sports.